Chapter 10:25. Natalie took 2 deep breaths and calmed down. She said with a mild expression, "I have never heard of a female being able to walk back safely from the hands of stray beasts. Since you've already taken your revenge and you're tired of me, then just kill me. I won't be able to survive if I leave this place anyway. An old female like me will no longer have any males willing to mate with me and take care of me and my children. I might as well die in your hands." With that, Natalie lifted her chin, revealing the clear veins on her neck. She then picked up Peter's hand and held it against her own neck. "Here, with your skills, it should be broken with just a light pinch." Peter's expression twitched uncontrollably. He quickly retracted his hand and shot a cold and sharp gaze at Natalie. It was like a wolf eyeing its prey in the night, full of danger. "You are not worthy of dirtying my hands. Moreover, I want to watch you slowly being tortured to death. Breaking your neck. Ha, if I let you die too quickly, I will not be happy." Natalie patted the dirt off her body and stood up from the bed. Then, she sent the 6 little ones into Gu Mingming's arms and said with a smile, "Daughter-in-law, help me take care of Elvis's brothers. I have to teach his father a lesson first. Perhaps he has forgotten who is the head of the family after being so friendly for so long." Gu Mengmeng nodded and shot Elvis a look. Then, the 2 of them left the cave and sat at the entrance to eavesdrop. Peter, who had been full of vigor, suddenly became a little timid. He did not know why. He had been so confident when Gu Mengmeng and Elvis were around. But now that the 2 of them had left, he did not even dare to look at Natalie in the eye. The ferocious look on his face was still there. He tried his best to play the role of a cold person. But the beads of sweat on his forehead and his throbbing temples betrayed his unease. Natalie stood in front of Peter. As he was sitting, she could barely look at him at eye level. She said, "Because you don't have the mating mark, so you don't have to worry about being abandoned, so you can do whatever you want, right?" Peter frowned. He knew that he should roar back fiercely or use sharp words to mock her. But it was as if his mouth had been sewn shut and he couldn't say a single word. His heart was beating extremely fast and he had a feeling of unease and anticipation. Natalie placed her hands on her waist and lifted her chin to look at Peter. "I am after all a female who has been tied up in the stray beast camp by you for 17 years. Do you think I am still the same little female who would be scared to tears by your ferocious look in the past?" Stretching out a hand, he poked Peter's forehead hard, causing his head to tilt backwards. "Young and pretty female, right? Tell me, with which eye did you see it? I'll help you dig out your eyeballs and wash them so that you won't be able to see clearly." Peter's heart was pounding. Natalie's jealous, isn't she? She had never treated him so strongly before. She had always been weak and timid. Now, she dared to be so impudent, because she finally believed that he couldn't bear to hurt her, right? What he had hoped for half his life had finally come true. But now, he had no choice but to push her away. Gritting his teeth, he brushed Natalie's hand away and gave her a shove. Chapter 10:26. Natalie didn't seem to expect Peter to push her. After a moment of shock, she stood up and said, "You've got guts. You dare to hit me. All right, all right. Even if you hurt me, I won't let you have it easy." Peter looked at Natalie in confusion. He had a bad feeling about this. Natalie turned her back to Peter and said, "You pushed me. I will kill your beloved female." With that, she used all her strength to dash towards the wall, looking as if she was going to smash her head against the wall and die. Peter broke out in cold sweat. He didn't even know that he could move so fast. He was already in front of Natalie when she had just taken her first step. "Ugh," he groaned as he felt an intense pain in his chest. It wasn't that Natalie's collision was painful, but he knew that Natalie didn't hold back at all. She was really determined to smash herself to death. If he hadn't stopped her in time, Natalie wouldn't have survived the collision. Are you crazy? Peter roared as he held on to Natalie's shoulder. Natalie looked up. There was a red mark on her forehead. She looked at Peter with tears in her eyes and said, "Didn't you not want me anymore? Didn't you get sick of me and feel disgusted at the sight of me? Go and find your young and beautiful female. Why do you still care about me?" Sob, sob, sob. He wanted to shake Natalie off and say, "If you want to die, stay away from me. Don't dirty my place." But looking at her sobbing face, his chest felt like it was being torn apart. He couldn't say the harsh words that he could have said in the past. Humans are fearless when they have nothing. She said that because he didn't have a mating mark, he wasn't afraid of being abandoned. But that wasn't the case. He was even more afraid of being abandoned by her now than when he had the mark on her body. Compared to her love, the mating mark was not even worth mentioning. Peter's pretense crumbled in the face of Natalie's tears. His large hand caressed her back. He sighed and said, "I have really spoiled you. You even dare to hurt my beloved female. You know that I can't do anything to you, right?" Natalie looked like she was going to cry herself to death in Peter's arms. She sobbed and asked, "Are you still going to abandon me? Are you still sick of me? You even hurt yourself. Isn't it because you know that I can't let you go? You still ask such a question?" Peter frowned helplessly, but his tone was extremely gentle. But Natalie didn't buy his gentleness. She continued to cry and asked, "You never liked me, right? From the start, you treated me this because I rejected you and hurt your pride, right? Sob, sob, you really don't like me." Peter had no choice but to hold the back of her head and said seriously, "I like you and care about you. You are the only person in the world that I can't live without. You clearly know, and you clearly believe, yet you still say such twisted words to poke at my heart." Natalie's eyes were filled with tears as she asked timidly, "But you said you were going to abandon me." Peter's heart ached along with Natalie's sobs. The ferocious look on his face had long disappeared. Facing Natalie, he had no other choice but to pamper her. So he surrendered. "I will never abandon you, never." Natalie nodded, and then raised her hand to wipe away her tears. She revealed a sly smile and said, "You're not going to abandon me? Then let's talk." Out of topic, all females in the world are drama queens, appraisal complete report on our results last month. The final ranking of Wolf Man in March was 80th. In the 2 months since it was released, we both entered the top 100. This made Susu feel very proud. Thank you, babies, for your support and love. April is Susu's birthday. I hope we can still make it into the top 100 this month. In addition, the explosive update time is set for the 23rd. At midnight, there will be a lot of updates in one go. My babies, please look forward to it. Chapter 10:27. Peter was stunned for a moment and could not react. Natalie's expression had changed too quickly. She was still so devastated just now, but now, Peter suddenly laughed and shook his head. He hugged Natalie even tighter and said, After spending so much time with the stray beasts, you have actually become so sly. But this is also good. Compared to you being really upset. I would rather you were just fooling me." Natalie pushed Peter away and sat back on the bed. "You won't be able to get away with this level of sweet talk. Tell me, why did you suddenly ask me to leave?" Peter walked up to Natalie and knelt on one knee. He placed one hand on Natalie's knee and the other around her waist. With a deep gaze, he said, "Recently, I've been losing control of myself more and more." Natalie was stunned for a moment. "Are you referring to the time you woke up and ran out in the middle of the night?" Peter's body stiffened. He thought she did not know. After hesitating for a moment, Peter still nodded and said, "My body craves to kill. I cannot control it with my consciousness. At first, I was satisfied just by killing some wild beasts. But now, I have to torture and kill orcs to calm myself down. I do not even know what I am doing when I am in a state of madness. If this goes on, I am afraid that one day I will hurt you when I am unconscious." Natalie chuckled and nodded. "So you intend to send me to Elvis's side and let the messenger of the beast deity protect me?" Peter nodded his head in agreement. But Natalie smiled and continued to ask, "Then what if one day, you lose control and rush to Saint Nazir to hurt me? What do you hope the messenger will do?" "Kill me," Peter stammered. "In the entire beast world, only she has this ability." Natalie sighed, as if extremely disappointed. She leaned back and widened the distance between them. "It seems like you do not love me that much, and do not believe that I love you." Peter's muscles tensed up instantly. He tightened his grip on Natalie's waist and pressed his lips into a straight line. He did not say a word. Natalie said, "If you had not stopped me just now, I would have knocked myself to death. Do you know that?" Peter became even more uneasy upon hearing this. Natalie continued, "Don't you understand? The current me. I can't live without you." Peter's eyes widened at Natalie's words and he was completely stunned. Natalie leaned forward and cupped Peter's face in her hands. "We've been going around and torturing each other for 17 years. Can't we have a good life ahead of us? Peter, I could not live without you. So, for my sake, can you try resisting that bloodlust? You love me so much. Can't you do anything for me? I can't live without you, so I will definitely try to overcome it. But I can't risk you, so you can leave with Elvis and the rest first. I'll come and fetch you when I can control this desire, all right?" Natalie smiled and shook her head. "I'm your greatest courage, aren't I? If I leave, how will you have the strength to resist the desires other than longing?" Chapter 10:28. Peter chuckled and shook his head. "You have really been spoiled by me to the point of being out of control." Natalie wasn't angry. She just smiled. "Hand the children over to their elder brother and sister-in-law for a while. I will focus on accompanying you." Peter nodded and buried his face in Natalie's thigh. A warm feeling spread from the left side of his chest to the rest of his body. Looking back now, he finally understood that the coldness in the past was called loneliness. Although Elvis was unwilling, he couldn't resist Gu Mingming's pleading gaze and reluctantly brought the entire nest of cubs back. He gritted his teeth. Those 4 huge troublemakers had just reached adulthood. 2 of them had yet to be chased away, and now there were 6 more. Just the thought of it gave him a headache. Elvis decided that after Peter's matter was settled, he would definitely fling those 6 meat buns in his face and have a proper duel with him. But luckily, Gu Mengmeng didn't personally carry those 6 milk buns. Instead, she threw them to Heda and Jiaoyu. Heda had always been steady and had the experience of taking care of his 3 younger brothers. So it wasn't difficult for him to take care of the 6 little uncles. More importantly, they could communicate in beast language, which was even better than Gu Mingming's. The cave that the 4 brothers had snatched back was not far away. So even though Heda had taken the 6 little ones away, Elvis would definitely be able to rush over to help as long as Heda or Jiaoyu howled at the top of their lungs if there were any problems. This was an era where communication was based on howling and transportation was based on walking. Leah had yet to return from sending Qi Xian and Kanwo off, while Heda and Jiaoyu were in another cave with the 6 milk buns. Gu Mingming's side was rather peaceful. She was already used to sitting where Qi Xian had sat in a daze. Elvis had become her personal sofa, using his chest to accommodate her. If Wabi wasn't in the way, Elvis would feel even more perfect. There will be a heavy downpour these few days. Wabi sat at the side with a melancholic gaze. This rain may last for a few days. But after it stops, it will be the dry season. By then, I will have to return to the Snake King Valley. Gu Mengmeng knew that Wabi couldn't bear to part with her. Gu Mengmeng kicked Wabi. She didn't use much strength, only causing him to stagger but not fall. Wabi turned back to glare at Gu Mengmeng in displeasure, but she grinned widely. What are you looking at? You couldn't beat me in the past, let alone now. Wabi rolled his eyes at Gu Mengmeng. We came out for nothing during this rainy season. We didn't even get into a fight. Gu Mengmeng asked, do you have violent tendencies? Hey, I know a little psychology now. Do you want me to treat you? Scram. Wabi growled rudely before looking askance at Gu Mengmeng. Before the monsoon season ends, how about I help you get rid of that cripple? That cripple, Cole. Gu Mengmeng's lips curled upwards. How should I deal with it? Did you kill him? Should I keep them for the new year? Wabi asked instead of answering. Chapter 1029. For a moment, Wabi was even a little dazed. It was as if the petite figure in front of him had overlapped with someone he was once familiar with. That person clearly didn't say the same thing, but he seemed to see his shadow. The corners of Wabi's lips curled up and he suddenly laughed. In that case, I don't have to be a busybody. However, when I come to find you after the dry season, you must find something fun for me to do. Gu Mengmeng nodded in agreement. That night, as expected, it rained heavily. Leah returned drenched while Wabi left without saying goodbye. Quickly transform and get rid of the water on your body. Don't catch a cold. Gu Mengmeng looked at Leah, who had returned in his half-beast form and felt helpless. He could have returned in his beast form and transformed at the entrance of the cave, but he had to make himself look so miserable. Leah shook his head and the water on the beast's ear flowed down his face. Sitting beside the fire, he twisted his big tail and looked up at Gu Mengmeng pitifully. I want to slowly roast myself dry so that Mengmeng will feel sorry for me. Gu Mengmeng smiled as she took a piece of beast skin and gently wiped Lee's hair. Occasionally, she would wipe his two furry beast ears and pinch them playfully. Leah sat there lazily, allowing Gu Mengmeng to fiddle with him. Then, he cupped his chin and told her about the situation in Zacharias. Once Kanwu arrived at Kanwu, he displayed the qualities of a little tyrant, arrogant and despotic, seemingly rude and unreasonable, but everything he did was just right. It made people fear him, but they couldn't find any reason for it. The reason for this was very obvious. He was relying on the fact that he was the son of the messenger of the beast deity and no one dared to provoke him. He had to shoulder all the dissatisfaction the Zacharias people had towards the paratroopers. Then, when Borg came, he would restrain himself, and Borg would win the hearts of many people for nothing. Then, if someone came to pick a fight with him, Kanwu could use force to suppress them. Because he was like this from the beginning, people would not blame him. They would only say, you know he has a bad temper, why did you provoke him? Then, Berg would come out and bring Kanwu back to educate him. After a few rounds like this, Borg's prestige was naturally established. This idea was not given to him by Leah. It was clearly Qixuan's doing. It had to be said that Qi Xian had learned some things from Cole. With him by Kanwu's side to help, Kanwu could avoid a lot of dirty tricks and also let Kanwu suffer a lot less. It had to be said that the combination of Kanwu and Qi Xian was somewhat similar to Elvis and Leah. With that thought, Leah looked up at Gu Mengmeng. Mengmeng, do you think Kanwu and Qi Xian will mate with the same female like me and Elvis? If the two brothers work together, the other rivals in love definitely won't be able to live. The smile on Gu Mengmeng's face froze. How should I put it? Things like Huang and Nuiying would be a beautiful story if it happened to others, but Gu Mengmeng felt a little awkward when it happened to her own son. But Leo was right. If Qi Xian and Canwo could mate with the same female, it would be the most advantageous situation for them. After all, if the two of them were separated, Canwo would easily be set up by others, while Qishuan's cold demeanor would make it difficult for the females here to like him. Chapter 1030. Gu Mengmeng smiled. Raising a son for 100 years, one would always have 99 worries. They didn't continue on this topic. After all, it was at least a decade later. Originally, everyone else had already left. Elvis and Leah had some indescribable thoughts of censoring them. But just as they were about to do so, they were stopped by a bone-chilling howl. That sound was Peter's. Gu Mengmeng frowned and instantly dispelled all her lustful thoughts. She draped a beast skin over herself and stood at the entrance of the cave, peering in the direction of the sound. The heavy monsoon rain came down heavily. Gu Mengmeng just stretched out a hand and her palm hurt from the raindrops. "Don't go out. You will catch a cold." Elvis circled his arm around Gu Mengmeng's waist and used his chest to warm her up. Gu Mengmeng nodded. "I won't go out. If I go out, I might not be able to control myself." Elvis was taken aback. "You know what will happen?" Gu Mengmeng nodded. She smiled with a hint of heaviness. "I know, but I can't do anything. I can't do anything other than give my blessings." That night, amid the pitter-patter of the rain, wolf howls rang out incessantly. It made the night look like a ghostly hell, filled with the cries of demons. Gu Mengmeng stood at the entrance, tormented. She really wanted to rush over to take a look. What if Peter lost control? If he really killed Natalie, would he still be alive when he woke up? No matter how much Elvis said he had no feelings for his parents, he would still be devastated if he lost them in one night. Should she be a little more selfish? Even if Peter's identity as a stray beast could not be erased, as long as they were alive. The next day, it was still raining. Large patches of dark clouds pressed down on the sky. It was clearly daytime, but it was even darker than nighttime. The howling of the wolves continued and Elvis's brows furrowed. Gu Mengmeng couldn't understand the contents of the howls, but she could tell that Peter was in agony and torment. If the backlash from the mating contract was equivalent to peeling off a layer of a male's skin, then what Peter was facing now was equivalent to grinding away every inch of his flesh and bones, then forging a new body. If he did not undergo nirvana, how could he be reborn? To burn away all the impurities of being a stray beast, it must be very painful. This kind of torture lasted for a full 4 days. On the morning of the 5th day, the sky cleared. Gu Mengmeng walked out of the cave and did not say a word. She just looked into the distance quietly. After a long time, a small black dot slowly moved in their direction. It gradually became bigger, and its silhouette gradually became clearer. Peter, who was in a sorry state, walked over slowly with Natalie in his arms. Both of them had obvious injuries on their bodies. Peter was also at his limit. It was his belief that he could not let anything happen to Natalie that had supported him to walk over step by step. Gu Mengmeng left Elvis's arms and said, "Elvis, Leah." The two of them understood and stepped forward. Leah took Natalie from Peter's hands and Peter only said one sentence, "Save her." Before fainting. Elvis stood at the side and caught Peter steadily. He carried him over his shoulder and walked back into the cave with Leah. Chapter 1031. Gu Mengmeng sat beside Natalie. Although he was an elder, it was still inconvenient for Leah to take care of some matters. So even though Leah didn't want Gu Mengmeng to be tired, Gu Mengmeng still insisted on taking care of Natalie herself. Taking off the torn beast skin, Gu Mengmeng personally cleaned Natalie's wounds bit by bit. Because of Snake's battle experience, Gu Mengmeng could tell at a glance that the wounds on Natalie's body had been left by a wolf's claws. But which wolf? It went without saying. Natalie's skin was very fair because she had not been exposed to the sun all year round. Even though she had gone out for walks after reconciling with Peter and her complexion was much better than before, it was still an unhealthy whiteness. But now, she was as white as snow without a single speck of dust. Gu Mengmeng frowned and covered Natalie with the beast skin. She then turned back to Leah. I have seen the wounds too. Although there are many of them, none of them are fatal. These wounds would not even be worth mentioning if they were on a male. But Natalie is a female, and one with a weak constitution who had just given birth. So what might not be a big problem for others might be fatal for her. Leah nodded. That's right. Firstly, the wounds are healing too slowly. Secondly, she has lost too much blood. Gu Mengmeng turned back to look at Natalie. She held her hand gently. It was not easy for you and Peter to get together. You won't give up on him just like that, right? You still have 6 newborn babies. Don't you want to see them grow up day by day and evolve again and again? Natalie, stay strong. You must hang in there, understand? Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng. Because of them, you haven't had a good night's sleep for a few days. Since you are fine now, go and rest. Gu Mengmeng was really exhausted. So she didn't say anything else. She obediently returned to the small bed prepared for Qi Xian and fell into a deep sleep. By the time she woke up, it was already night time with a bright moon and few stars. Peter had already woken up. Disregarding the injuries on his body, he stayed by Natalie's side in a daze. He held Natalie's hand tightly with both hands, as if afraid that Natalie would disappear the moment he let go. Gu Mengmeng walked to Natalie's side and used the back of her hand to touch Natalie's forehead. She frowned and said, Leah, go fetch a basin of water and prepare 2 soft beast skins for me. Leah did not ask why and did as he was told. Gu Mengmeng washed the beast skin and placed it on Natalie's forehead. She sighed and said, she is running a fever. It should be caused by an external wound. If only there were antibiotics, but this place. Leah kissed Gu Mengmeng's forehead and smoothed her brows. Leave it to me, don't worry. Yes. Gu Mengmeng nodded her head. Although Leah usually ignored the external injuries of males, he was a witch doctor after all. He knew many herbs that Gu Mengmeng did not know and some common knowledge in the beast world that Gu Mengmeng did not understand. She chuckled. Having a witch doctor by her side really made her feel at ease. Leah was busy taking care of Natalie and Peter. Gu Mengmeng had wanted to share some of the burden and so volunteered to cook. But in the end, Leah didn't even let her move a finger. Chapter 1032. Apart from cooking, Leah spent most of his time taking care of Natalie. Peter's regenerative abilities were extremely strong and his external injuries healed within a few days. However, he still looked very haggard because the person he was worried about was still unconscious. Natalie's face was still pale but her lips had regained some color. Leah had treated her wounds very well and it was no longer inflamed. But the healing process was very slow. The dry season was gradually approaching. Elvis and Leah would not allow Gu Mengmeng to continue staying in the stray beast camp. There was no other reason, there was no water source here. They had to either return to Sadr or Saint Nazaire. They had to set off immediately to reach their destination before the water source dried up. Natalie's injuries were not suitable for long journeys and she definitely could not follow Gu Mengmeng. But Peter was no longer suitable to stay here as the king of the stray beasts. Gu Mengmeng could not stop worrying. In the end, after much coaxing and pestering, she decided to leave 3 days later. And just as Gu Mengmeng was about to leave, Natalie woke up. Heaving a sigh of relief, Gu Mengmeng felt as though a huge weight had been lifted off her shoulders. It seemed that ever since she snatched Qi Xian back from Cole's hands, everything had been progressing in the right direction. Peter carefully pulled Natalie into his arms. It was the first time in so many days that anyone could hear him breathing. Leah, prepare something easy to digest. Let's have lunch before we set off. Leah chuckled. From the moment he saw Natalie wake up, he had already guessed that their departure time would be delayed. But luckily, they would only set off after lunch. He had initially thought that Gu Mengmeng would request to stay until tomorrow. That she was willing to leave in the afternoon was already better than he had expected. Leah prepared the food very quickly. When the piping hot sweet potato paste was served, Peter automatically transformed into a leather chair and propped himself up behind Natalie. He allowed her to lean against his chest with all her strength, not allowing her to exert even the slightest bit of strength. Taking the stone bowl and spoon from Lee's hands, Peter fed Natalie with his back to Leah. But Gu Mengmeng interfered and brushed aside the food Peter was about to send into Natalie's mouth. She looked up at Peter's displeased gaze without the slightest hint of fear and just chuckled. You are not in a position to look at me like that now. Peter frowned but did not retort. Instead, he said, thank you for saving Natalie. I will definitely repay this favor. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and lifted a corner of the beast skin covering Natalie's body with one slender hand. A lifelike black wolf on her chest appeared before her eyes. Gu Mengmeng pointed at the black wolf's face and said, I'm talking about this matter. Natalie looked at Gu Mengmeng. Peter was stunned and could not react for a long while. Natalie has the mark of a black wolf. Had he been so focused on Natalie's face that he hadn't noticed the mark on her body? Or did he realize it, but he didn't have enough brain cells to think about it? He was only thinking about whether she was still alive, so he ignored the changes in her body and himself. Peter stared at Natalie's heart in disbelief for a long time. There was his mark there. He could not be mistaken. That black wolf was him. It was actually on her chest. Digression. Chapter 1033. The stone bowl in his hand fell to the ground with a clattering sound, causing Peter's heart to tremble. The king of the stray beasts, who had been wandering around the borders of hell, with only one hand clutching tightly onto the dead tree outside of hell, was actually crying. The bloodshot veins in his widened eyes had yet to recede, but the soybean-sized teardrops continued to fall, one by one. Natalie was still weak, but she had a gratified smile on her face. She moved her head slightly and glanced sideways at Peter. Silly boy, isn't this a good thing? Why are you crying? I'm not crying. Peter hurriedly wiped away his tears, then kissed Natalie deeply. After a long while, he said in a trembling voice, the thing that I didn't even dare to dream of has actually come true. I am your partner now. I can stay by your side to take care of you and the children. Yeah, you are my partner, my only partner, my most beloved partner, the partner who will always be by my side. Natalie gently caressed the side of Peter's face, her smile exceptionally gentle. But, how can it be? Peter was extremely confused. He had never heard of stray beasts being able to mate again in the beast world. Natalie and Gu Mengmeng exchanged a smile, a tacit understanding between females. For some reason, Peter couldn't control the corners of his lips. As long as Natalie smiled, he wanted to smile along with her. Even if he didn't know why she was smiling, as long as she was smiling, it was something worthy of his happiness. Tell me, huh? Peter gently hooked Natalie's chin, coaxing her gently. Natalie looked at Gu Mengmeng and Gu Mengmeng nodded. Natalie then said, this is the method that the great messenger requested from the beast deity. The process is very difficult and requires you to have great power and an unwavering love for me. It is a gamble with a slim chance of survival. But for the sake of us being together in the future, I still decided to take the gamble. I'm sorry for pushing you into such a painful situation, and letting you suffer like that. Peter held Natalie's hand. No, you did the right thing. As long as I can be with you, I can endure any pain. Natalie smiled happily, then slowly continued, at the beginning of the rainy season, the great messenger came to see me. She asked me if I was willing to mate with you again and give the children a healthy family. After all, if you don't get rid of your stray beast identity, our children will be stray beasts too. For the sake of the child, for the sake of you and me. Peter tightened his grip on Natalie's hand and brought it to his lips to kiss it in support. Natalie's smile was filled with relief as she said, to reverse the mating contract, you have to burn all the filthy blood of the stray beasts in your body and reconstruct all your flesh and bones. It was a very painful process. If one was not strong enough, they would not be able to endure it. However, even if you were a peak level 5 orc, your chances of success were only 30%. Because in order to cleanse the impurities in your blood, only my blood can be used. During the reconstruction process, you will fall into madness because of the pain, and you will have the most primitive desire for my blood. So, if you love me less, you will not be able to control yourself and directly bite my neck to suck my blood. Chapter 1034. Natalie patted Peter to comfort him. She chuckled. Didn't we succeed now? So don't be afraid. Everything is fine now. Peter frowned. He still looked at Natalie, his heart aching for her. She was covered in wounds and had only woken up after being unconscious for so many days. It was all because of him. So this is the reason why I have been so bloodthirsty and violent recently? Peter asked. Natalie nodded. The key to activating this reverse mating contract is for me to love you and bear your children. So, thinking about it carefully, Peter's violent temper had indeed started after the birth of the 6 little ones. It was just that it was not obvious at the start and he could still suppress it. But ever since he accompanied Gu Mengmeng to retrieve the soul of the forest and was affected by the white fog, his bloodthirsty emotions started to get out of control. Peter frowned. He looked at Gu Mengmeng. So when I begged you to take Natalie away, you asked me to ask her. Gu Mengmeng nodded. Yeah, it was expected that you would beg me like this. Because Leah had told me before that the reason why he wanted Elvis and I to mate first was because he needed someone who was capable and absolutely trustworthy. Someone who could protect me and bring me away if he lost control. Elvis also said something similar. I think all males have the same thought process. So I taught Natalie how to deal with it beforehand. Television dramas do not lie to me. Natalie also smiled. That's right. I used the 7-word mantra that the great messenger taught me to tame you. The 7-word mantra. Peter was confused. Elvis and Leah exchanged glances before looking at Gu Mengmeng. Natalie then looked at Gu Mengmeng. Great messenger, can I say it? Gu Mengmeng felt a little awkward. She tugged at Natalie's hand. You are Elvis's mother beast, which means you are my elder. You addressing me as great messenger makes me feel a little awkward. Why don't you call me Mengmeng like Elvis? No way. Elvis did not wait for Natalie to speak before rejecting her firmly. Mengmeng is my exclusive title. If you want to snatch it, you have to defeat me first. Peter tilted his head to look at Natalie gently. Do you like this title? I'll help you snatch it back. Gu Mengmeng face-bombed. The beast world was indeed full of weirdos. What was there to fight over? He waved his hand and said, how about you call me Little Gu? Natalie kept sneaking glances at Elvis's face. Seeing that he did not object, she smiled softly and said, all right, let's call him Xiao Gu. Since the 2 females had made up their minds, Elvis and Peter no longer had an excuse to fight and could only give up. Xiao Gu, can you tell them the 7 syllables mantra? Is it possible that it won't work if I tell you? Natalie asked hesitantly. Gu Meng Meng smiled. Don't worry, so what if they know? As long as they love us, they can't do anything to the 7 syllables incantation. Natalie thought it made sense. She chuckled and said, makes sense. Chapter 1035. With Gu Mingming's permission, Natalie stopped hiding and said, the 7-word mantra, as the name suggests, only has 7 words. First cry, second make a fuss, and third, hang yourself. Peter was taken aback. So you hit the wall, you, Natalie nodded. That's right, I was tricking you that day. Peter couldn't bear to be so harsh towards his own female and could only turn to glare at Gu Meng Meng. But Gu Meng Meng shrugged. That's right, I specially came to watch the show that day. You. Peter was suddenly speechless. Gu Meng Meng giggled. You are no longer a stray beast, is it all right to glare at me like that? My father only has me as his precious daughter. He doesn't even bear to scold me or glare at me. Aren't you afraid that if he gets angry, Gu Meng Meng didn't elaborate further but just glanced at Natalie. Peter instantly admitted defeat. He couldn't afford to offend this in-law. Gu Meng Meng laughed heartily and threw herself into Elvis's arms. Hubby, your father is such a coward. Elvis also snorted in agreement. He recalled how arrogant Peter was in the past, like a god controlling their lives and deaths, coldly watching as the brothers killed each other. But now, he was acting so cowardly. Actually, Elvis now really had a higher opinion of Peter. Males had never been afraid of fighting fiercely. But to reign in his vicious aura and admit defeat for a female was the proudest thing for a male in the beast world. Outside, he was an untamed wolf, but in front of his own female, he could only be a cowardly husky. Peter was like that, and so was Elvis. For his own female, they could risk their lives and be shameless. But understanding was one thing, but it didn't stop him from laughing along with Gu Meng Meng. After laughing enough, Gu Meng Meng straightened her back. Peter is no longer a stray beast. Even a 5th-level orc might not be suitable to stay here. Moreover, it would not be good for the wolf cubs to be educated. But Natalie's health is not suitable for long journeys. Why don't you go to Zacharias? Qi Xian and Kanwu are there, so you can take care of each other. Natalie nodded in agreement, and the case was settled. After lunch, the group split up. Natalie and Peter brought the 6 little buns to Zacharias, while Gu Meng Meng, Elvis and Leah brought Hedda and Jialia back to Sauter. Actually, this place was closer to St. Nazaire, but Gu Meng Meng was concerned about the little cub in Sandy's tummy. After all, it was her first child and Gu Meng Meng still hoped that she could rush back in time to accompany her. Sandy is so timid. If she is here, she will feel more at ease. Moreover, Gu Meng Meng had already promised her. She did not wish to lose her trust in her only best friend. After walking for 3.5 days, when Gu Meng Meng once again stood at the entrance of Sauter, Oakley was still there with a group of elders to welcome her. But this time, apart from the elder, there were a few other beast men. They looked unfamiliar, but they all seemed to have extraordinary strength. They were at least rank 3 beast men. Gu Meng Meng did not say anything. At least to outsiders, Oakley was still the city lord of Sauter and she had to give him some face. Without stopping, Gu Meng Meng directly entered the tribe and headed straight for Sandy's little stone house. Sandy's tummy was already very big, much bigger than when Gu Meng Meng gave birth to Hedda and his brothers. As a result, it was rather inconvenient for her to move around. She swayed 3 steps for every step she took, like a roly-poly doll. Aside from the topic, today's update has ended. My babies have been saying that there's a lot of content recently and I'm so depressed. Chapter 1036. Seeing that Gu Meng Meng had arrived, Sandy's entire being brightened up. She was beaming from afar and waved at Gu Meng Meng with all her might. Gu Meng Meng was afraid that she would sprain her waist if she kept waving her arms, so she jogged over to Sandy and pulled down her waving little hands. "You are going to be a mother soon, yet you are still so rash. Can't you spare a thought for my godson?" Sandy hugged Gu Meng Meng for a long while before saying in a coquettish tone, "I thought you would not be able to make it back in time. I have been worried for a few days." Gu Meng Meng smiled. "It is my godson's birth after all. How can I not come back for such a big event?" Bode had been standing beside Sandy the whole time. He was extremely nervous, but he was already used to Sandy throwing him to the back of her mind the moment Gu Meng Meng appeared. Now, he did not even feel a sense of loss. Haha, getting used to it is really a scary thing. Gu Meng Meng comforted Sandy for a long while and told her many new and interesting things that were not too exciting. She only left in the evening and instructed Colin and Bode to immediately look for Gu Meng Meng if Sandy showed any signs of giving birth. After all, Leo was the best witch doctor. Even if he did not come in, he could guard the door. After leaving Sandy's place, Gu Meng Meng did not return to the stone castle. Instead, she went to the meeting hall. Oakley seemed to have expected that Gu Meng Meng would come to look for him. Hence, he stood guard at the door and looked like he was waiting for her arrival. Gu Meng Meng's sense of smell was very sensitive and she could smell Cole's scent on the chair. Hence, she did not sit on it. Instead, she used a tree branch to pick up the beast's skin and threw it directly into the fire basin to burn. Elvis and Leah were gratified by Gu Meng Meng's actions. They disliked the smell of other males on her more than anyone else. Oakley also understood Gu Meng Meng's motive. Hence, he did not say anything and just quietly took a new piece of firefox beast skin from the side and handed it to Leah. Leah caressed the beast skin and smiled. "Top quality goods." As he spoke, Leah placed the firefox skin on the stone chair. It was Gu Meng Meng's first time seeing a firefox beast skin. The color was not the usual orange-red, but a real fiery red. The texture was firm and the fur was fine. To a person like Gu Meng Meng who was obsessed with fur, this firefox skin was much more pleasing to her than the tiger skin. Gu Meng Meng turned and sat on the stone chair. She looked at Oakley. Before she could say anything, Oakley said, "The drought season is approaching and there is a shortage of water resources." The surrounding tribes all came to discuss whether they could imitate Saint Nazir's method of handling the situation, letting the tribe's witch doctor arrange for water to come to Sodor to tide over the dry season. "I thought that since it was a rule set by the great emissary, there shouldn't be any problems. So, after slightly modifying the minor details, I agreed to it. Or, I Tian, I Long, or, after the experience of King. After the changes. I. Or, he, I, or, after. Or. Chapter 1037. An important friend. The smile on Oakley's face did not change at all. It was just faint, but it revealed a sense of alienation. Gu Meng Meng suddenly felt a sense of helplessness. Perhaps this was where she was not as good as Cole. She would never learn how to control a person's heart. No matter how much she wanted him to stay, she would eventually lose this friend. Today, the leaders of the surrounding 16 tribes came with me to welcome the great messenger. In exchange for a water source, they will submit their tribes to Sodor and become the great messenger's subsidiary tribes. Every year, after the rainy season ends, they will offer 20 pieces of top-notch beast skin and 20 large beasts during winter. Oakley explained the situation calmly. Gu Meng Meng chuckled. A monarchy. A weak tribe would offer tributes to a stronger tribe in exchange for protection. Oakley, you're so comfortable being the city lord. You're about to become a local tyrant. Oakley chuckled and lowered his head humbly. Then, he stood up straight and said, "The reason why Sauter is in such a situation today is naturally because of the great messenger uncle's protection. But more importantly, it is because of my planning and management. I am worthy of being the city lord. I am worthy of being the city lord and I am worthy of being the great messenger." Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. She clearly did not expect Oakley to say something like that. She thought that he would at least hope to get along well with her on the surface. Oakley did not hesitate at all. He continued, "Anyway, the great messenger has no intention to unify the beast world. So why can't you grant me my wish? I will protect you and help you solve all your troubles. I just want a position that you don't care for. Why can't you give it to me?" The beast world had its own survival rules. Every tribe had their own independent or even opposing rules. Every tribe also had their own habits. There was even a food chain between the predator and the prey. Unify. That was something that was impossible to achieve. Moreover, Gu Mengmeng actually liked the way the beast world was now. Living in a relaxed and comfortable manner with the tribe as a unit. She did not know how the other tribes were like. But at least Saint Nazir used to have a beautiful life other than the annoying Nina. Gu Mengmeng did not want to forcefully shatter this beautiful life. She hoped to protect the way the beast world should be. But Oakley. After staring at Oakley for a long time, Gu Mengmeng asked calmly, "Oakley, are we not going back?" Oakley chuckled, tilted his head and asked softly, "Lord Emissary, you are the one who has abandoned me. Where do you want me to go?" "I didn't." Gu Mengmeng blurted out. Oakley said, "When the great messenger left with the people of Saint Nazir but left Barit and me behind, didn't she already abandon us?" Or, in the eyes of the great emissary, that kind of degree is not considered abandonment. Gu Mengmeng was speechless. The decision back then was correct in the grand scheme of things, but it was ultimately a disappointment to Oakley and Barit. Oakley's tone was not sharp, it was even very calm. He said, "Lord Emissary need not be upset, I have no intention of blaming you. Your decision is correct. It is the best decision for the tribe. Oakley did not reprimand you for anything, he only rearranged his position. This position was not that of a friend." Chapter 1038. Oakley lowered his head and said, "We'll talk about it when the time comes." Gu Mengmeng did not force him, she just stood up and walked out. When she passed by Oakley, she stopped in her tracks and kept silent for a moment before saying, "I only hope that you don't do anything that you will regret." Oakley didn't reply and Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng away. Time passed quickly and on the 5th day, Colin rushed into the stone castle, saying that Sandy had a stomachache and was about to give birth. Gu Mengmeng let Elvis carry her over without a second word. When they reached the outside of the stone house, they heard Sandy screaming her name at the top of her lungs, "Gu Mengmeng, Gu Mengmeng, is she here?" Gu Mengmeng didn't care about anything else and directly pushed the door open. She held on to Sandy's hand and said, I'm here, I'm here." Sandy's forehead was full of sweat as she held on to Gu Mengmeng's hand and said with a sobbing tone, "Pain. I'm in so much pain." Gu Mengmeng pulled Bode over and stuffed his claw into Sandy's hands. "It's this idiot who caused you so much pain. Bite him when you can't take it anymore. Bite off this claw and I'll give you the other." Sandy shook her head and said, "I'll give you the other." Sandy held onto Bode's arm with both hands and nodded at Gu Mengmeng solemnly. Gu Mengmeng had experience in giving birth but she didn't have any experience in delivering a baby. Thinking about it, when she was giving birth, Leo was the one holding her head and Elvis was the one delivering the baby. Should she call Elvis in? But it didn't seem suitable. Bode's heart ached to see Sandy in so much pain but he still had to lick the baby's placenta. Looking around frantically, Bode called out, "Colin." Colin had just entered with a basin of hot water when he heard Bode's call. He hurried over and asked, "What's the matter?" Bode grabbed Colin's hand and handed it to Sandy. He then looked at Colin and said, "You take my place this time. When Sandy gives birth to your baby, I'll return you a claw." Colin was dumbfounded, and before he could understand what was going on, Sandy bit down on him. It was so painful that Colin howled, "Roar." Elvis and Leah, who were at the door, were shocked. Why was it that all hairy people gave birth to children by females, but Sandy's family gave birth to males? Gu Mingming's heart ached for Sandy. She washed a small piece of beast skin and then sat on the bed, hugging Sandy's head. She used hot water to wipe her face and comforted her. "Sandy, adjust your breathing, don't hold your breath." In Sandy's eyes, Gu Mengmeng was the main pillar of support. She was flustered and helpless and did not know what to do, so she did whatever Gu Mengmeng said. "Adri, wash the hide." Gu Mengmeng threw the beast skin in her hand to Sandy's other bear partner. When Sandy gave birth, Adali was also running around in a panic. Hearing Gu Mingming's instructions, he started to work like a robot. He took turns to wash the 3 pieces of beast skin and passed it to Gu Mengmeng after he was done. Then, he took over the one in Gu Mingming's hand and started to wash it again. Because he was too nervous, a few pieces of the animal skin had been washed away. He had never been afraid of being cut open, but now his hands were trembling. Gu Mengmeng grabbed the beast skin and wiped Sandy's face while shouting, "What the hell are you all panicking for? I'm guarding here, what are you all afraid of? Calm down." Chapter 1039. Sandy gave birth to 3 leopard cubs this time. They were about the same size as when Hedda and the rest were born, but Sandy's physique was not as good as Gu Mingming's, so it took more effort to give birth than Gu Mengmeng. But Sandy was an orc, so her recovery ability was much stronger. So, when Gu Mengmeng placed Sandy, who was exhausted after giving birth, down and brought Colin, whose hands were covered in blood, out of the house, Elvis and Leah were looking at her with a snicker. Gu Mengmeng was also extremely tired. Sandy was the one giving birth, but why did she feel that she was the one who had been exerting herself? She leaned into Elvis's arms, exhausted, and pointed at Colin. "Leah, apply some ointment on him. He's a scapegoat." Leo was already prepared, so he calmly applied medicine on Colin's wound. Then, he teased, "Elvis and I were listening at the door just now. If not for the fact that you are a female, I would have thought that Sandy gave birth to your cub." Colin's expression turned serious. Gu Mengmeng was listless in Elvis's arms. She felt even more tired than when she gave birth to the 4 cubs when she accompanied Sandy. She pointed at Colin. "It's all because the males in Sandy's family are so useless. They only know how to panic when something happens." Tisk. Colin was the strongest among the males in Sandy's family. He was too embarrassed to retort after Gu Mingming's disdain. He just lowered his head and said, "I'll work harder in the future." Gu Mengmeng waved her hands. "It's useless to make up for congenital deficiencies. Go back and tell Bode not to just take care of the young one, but to arrange for people to take care of Sandy for me. If I, Sandy, suffer any grievances during her confinement period, I'll break all 4 of his claws." Colin shrank back and replied, "Got it." After Leah bandaged Colin, he followed Gu Mengmeng back to the stone castle. Gu Mengmeng was also extremely tired after a day at Sandy's. She fell asleep not long after she went to bed. The next day, Colin came to invite Gu Mengmeng early in the morning, saying that Sandy was looking for her. Gu Mengmeng did not ask what was the matter. She just washed her face and went over. The 3 leopard cubs squeezed into Sandy's arms and whimpered. Sandy was glowing with motherly instincts. As he had often helped Gu Mengmeng take care of the 4 little ones, he could easily take care of his own children and was not flustered. Seeing Gu Mengmeng, Sandy raised her hand and said, "Gu Mengmeng, come quickly." Gu Meng Meng held Sandy's hand and sat beside her. She reached out her hand and gently stroked the little leopard, the corners of her lips curling up unknowingly. He then turned back and stared at Heda and Jiaoyu bitterly, saying, "My son used to be this adorable too." Heda remained calm and shook his head helplessly. Jiaoyu's mouth twitched as he sprawled on Gu Mingming's knees. "Mom, are you despising me now?" Gu Mengmeng sighed and pushed him. "You are not suitable to act cute now. Even your uncle is cuter than you." Jiaoyu held his chest with one hand and pretended to be hit by an arrow as he fell backwards onto the ground. "Mother, you hurt my heart too much." Sandy chuckled at Jiaoyu's teasing. "Don't be sad. Mother-in-law thinks you are cute. You are very, very cute." Jiaoyu immediately stood up and tilted his head at Sandy with a smile. "I knew mother-in-law treats me the best." Gu Mengmeng smiled and did not say a word. Chapter 1040. Gu Mengmeng nodded. "Is it about the naming?" "Yeah." Sandy's eyes were sparkling. She really liked the names of Heda and his brothers. Although they were meaningless words in the beast language, she really liked them. They had a unique style that she could never think of. Joseph, Johnny, Yogner. Gu Mengmeng announced the names that she had long thought of. Sandy was a little disappointed. She thought they would be like Heda and his brothers, those names that had no special meaning but were very unique. Gu Mengmeng saw the struggle on Sandy's face. "What's wrong? You don't like them?" Gu Mengmeng had specially discussed with Leah. These names had special meanings in the beast world. Moreover, the first word was the same, so it was obvious that they were from the same family. Sandy shook her head. "It's not that I don't like them. It's just that I thought they would be names like Heda and his brothers, nice and special." Gu Mengmeng smiled. "When the three little ones grow up, if they also like Heda and his brothers' names, they can go and fight with them. If they win, they can snatch their names." Sandy patted the three little ones' heads and said, "Did you hear that? Your godmother taught you to be a brave child. You have to fight for what you like." Pfft! Gu Mengmeng burst out laughing. Sandy was no longer just her best friend, right? She was at the level of a brainless fan. No matter what she did, Sandy could always come up with a good reason. Actually, Gu Mengmeng was just saying it casually to tease the children, Joseph, Johann, Jogner. Sandy repeated the three names with a smile. Her eyes were filled with gentleness. Gu Mengmeng nodded. "Yeah, Leah said it means happiness, bravery and wisdom." Sandy nodded in agreement. She then tugged at Gu Mengmeng's hand. "Thank you. Is there a need for thanks between us?" Gu Mengmeng held Sandy's hand in return and said, "Rest well and recuperate your body. We will return to Saint Nazaire after the dry season ends." Sandy nodded. She lay back on the bed. She was still too weak after giving birth. Just sitting for a while was already very tiring. Gu Mengmeng played with the little leopard for a while more before returning to her stone castle. The dry season did not affect Sauter much. Although there was only one well, and even if they kept drawing water every day, the supply was still limited. But Gu Mingming's status was special, so naturally, she would not be deprived of water. And because Sandy had a different relationship with Gu Mengmeng, Oakley took extra care of her. Every day after Leah fetched water for Gu Mengmeng, Colin would fetch water for Sandy, followed by the other females in the tribe. The pregnant female would be the third to fetch water, followed by the females that had given birth to males, according to the number of cubs they had, followed by the normal females according to their family's power. After all the females in the tribe had taken their water, it was the turn of the other tribes allied with Sauter to take their turn. Oakley had arranged everything neatly. Gu Mengmeng leaned against the window, her gaze a little dazed. Leah stood outside the window and brought a small cup of water to Gu Mengmeng's mouth. Gu Mengmeng drank a mouthful and said, "Don't you think this dry season is too peaceful?" Leah chuckled. "Isn't peace good?" Chapter 1041. Gu Mengmeng supported herself with her elbows and stood up. Then, she flipped over and sat on the windowsill, leaving her legs hanging casually outside the bed. Leaning her head against the side of the window, she said, "Saint Nazir's well also provides water to the other tribes, but they are not submitting to us but giving it to us for free. With you personally in charge of the situation, there have been so many filthy things. I don't believe that your disciple Oakley knows how to mediate better than you as his master." Leah chuckled without saying a word. How could he not notice the strangeness in this? It was just that he had promised Gu Mengmeng not to hide anything from her. So even though he knew something was wrong, he did not investigate and even forced himself not to guess and piece together the truth. Because once he thought it through, not telling Gu Mengmeng would be considered as lying. But he did not want Gu Mengmeng to be embroiled in those troublesome matters, so he could only be prepared to strike after the fact. Anyway, their Gu Mengmeng was extremely powerful, and with Elvis, the black-faced great guardian, no one could cause any trouble. So, as long as no one was plotting against his Gu Mengmeng, he could pretend he did not see anything. Gu Mengmeng continued leaning against the window. "It's too calm, so calm that it's strange. I keep feeling that a storm is brewing." The moon was already full for the second time. Unknowingly, Gu Mengmeng had returned to solder for more than a month. Everything had been unbelievably peaceful for the past month. Every morning, Gu Mengmeng would go to Sandy's place to play with the little leopards. The little ones were very close to Gu Mengmeng and each of them was chubby and adorable. Sandy's body was also recovering well. Every day, she would share with Gu Mengmeng what adorable yet speechless actions the little ones had done. At noon, Elvis would bring Gu Mengmeng back to the stone castle, while Leah would definitely have lunch waiting for her. This was clearly the peaceful life that she had been dreaming of, but for the past month, she had been getting more and more fearful day by day. She kept feeling that something was brewing, little by little, like a snowflake rolling down from the top of a snowy mountain. By the time you discovered it, it would have become an unbearable avalanche that you could not avoid in time. There was always a sense of imminent danger, as if a hand was strangling Gu Mengmeng's throat, making her feel extremely uneasy. The dry season had already entered the second half, which was also the most torturous stage. In the early stages, they could rely on drinking more water in advance to last a while, and then rely on drinking the blood of wild beasts to last a while longer. But now, even the beasts had no blood left. Solder's well became more and more popular and the number of people queuing up for water increased. Oakley had no choice but to arrange for people to fetch water 24/7. But even so, the supply was still falling short of the demand. Greed is the most fundamental bad habit of humans. If the whole world had no water to drink, they would suffer, but there was nothing they could do except endure. And when the whole world has no water, but you have water, you are destined to bear the jealousy and hatred of the whole world. In the past, Solder's source of life was hidden and outsiders did not know about it at all. But when Oakley announced this resource, so what if it was the messenger's tribe? When the well in St. Nazir was first dug, how many people did not hesitate to offend the messenger of the beast deity and steal openly and covertly just for water? In the end, Gu Mengmeng had to open up the water source so that everyone could queue up for water. Although the queue was longer, it was not a big problem as it was relatively fair. But Oakley, the water source was only supplied to the 16 surrounding tribes that had surrendered. Chapter 1042. Finally, on a hot and stuffy night, Gu Mengmeng was woken up by the noises of fighting. When she opened her eyes, she realized that Elvis was already in a battle-ready state. Leo was guarding the entrance of the stone castle, with Huda and Jialu beside him. Elvis stood a step in front of Gu Mengmeng, carefully guarding against all movements in the surroundings. What's going on? Gu Mengmeng lowered her voice to an extremely low level. Everything here gave off a feeling that made one tremble with fear, and one could not help but feel oppressed. Elvis turned around and smiled at Gu Mengmeng. It's nothing, you can sleep. Gu Mengmeng sat up, not knowing whether to laugh or cry at Elvis's words. This atmosphere is like a graveyard, who can still sleep? What's going on? Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng into his arms. There should be enemies invading, but it's very strange, Gu Mengmeng frowned. Invading? Stray beasts? Elvis shook his head. I'm not sure yet. Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath. Let's go to Sandy's place. Elvis did not say much and just followed her instructions. Gu Mengmeng was already standing at the peak of the beast world. No enemy could possibly hurt her. But if they made use of the people she cared about, it would be a different story. Leo was right about one thing. It was better to protect one's weak spot behind one's back. When Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng out, Leo brought Hede and Jiaoyu along with him. And when they reached Sandy's house, Gu Mengmeng's heart froze. Sandy hugged Lu Xiao in her arms and curled up in a corner. Beside her was Bode, who was covered in blood and holding on to his last breath, protecting her and the children. The other partners had already been beaten back to their original forms. They were piled up at the entrance, covered in blood. And above these corpses sat a person, Cole. Without a word, Gu Mengmeng rushed to Sandy's side to protect her. Then, she glared at Cole with her guard up. Leah. Leah understood and brought Hede and Jiaoyu to Sandy's side. Then, he said, you too, protect your mother-in-law and brothers well. Hede nodded and did not speak. Jiaoyu narrowed his eyes and glanced at Cole, who was like a god of death, but did not say a word. It wasn't that he didn't understand, but with his and Hede's current status, if they insisted on standing out, they would only be burdens. What Leah wanted them to do was to stay with Sandy and not run around so that they could concentrate on protecting her if a fight broke out. Jiaoyu was a child that Leah had personally taught, so Leah was very assured of him. Although he would usually say something that would drive people crazy, he was still very reliable when it came to critical moments. Hence, he didn't waste any more time explaining. He just crouched down and started to treat Bode's injuries. Gu Mengmeng surveyed her surroundings. There was no one else but Cole. Only then did she relax a little. Taking 2 steps forward, Gu Mengmeng laughed out of anger. She looked up at Cole and said, you should know that my family and friends are all my weaknesses. If you control them well, you can threaten me and make it difficult for me to take a single step. But if you really hurt them, I will go crazy, so crazy that you will die without a burial. Chapter 1043. Beautiful. Alright, then you can enjoy it. With that, Gu Mengmeng charged towards Cole. She raised her hand to her ear and turned it into a claw, as if she was aiming at Cole's neck and ready to snap it. Cole didn't dodge or panic. He just sat there calmly. Qi Xian has a bewitching spell on him that is connected to me. If I die, he will die. With that, Gu Mengmeng's fingers were already on Cole's Adam's apple. She just needed to use a little more strength to crush it. Cole's eyes reflected the color of blood. He was evil and arrogant. His lips curled up slightly, as if he didn't have the slightest sense of danger of losing his life. When I cast the bewitching spell on Sandy, I knew to leave a dead knot. Once you forcefully cover it with the bewitching spell, she will die on the spot. Qi Xian is such an important bargaining chip. Do you think I wouldn't leave any insurance? Gu Mengmeng frowned. This was also the reason why she didn't dare to kill Cole after snatching Qi Xian back. Cole chuckled. You're not going to kill me. Gu Mengmeng retracted her hand and raised her leg to kick Cole. It wasn't that Cole didn't sense it, but he purposely didn't dodge. He allowed Gu Mengmeng to send him flying and land on the ground pathetically. Leah. Gu Mengmeng turned back to look at Leah. Bode's injuries were not light, but they were not fatal. Leah had already treated his wounds, and upon hearing Gu Mengmeng's call, he immediately rushed over to treat Colin, Adali and Sandy's other partners, who had been sat on by Cole just now. Cole propped himself up from the ground. He held on to his left ribs and gently touched them. 3 were broken. Every time he moved, the broken ribs would scrape against his internal organs. Needless to say, it was quite painful. Still smiling, Cole said, "I've already received my punishment." "Aw Gu, just watch the show." Gu Mengmeng didn't want to waste her breath on Cole, nor was she in the mood to watch the show. She just stared at him coldly. "Today's attack, were you the one behind it?" Cole didn't answer her. "Would you believe me if I said no?" "No." Gu Mengmeng answered directly. Cole sighed and said, "All right, then just take it that I was the one who did it." "Purpose?" Gu Mengmeng asked. Cole thought for a moment and said, "Probably, because he was bored." Gu Mengmeng clearly did not believe him. She did not think that Cole was someone who would do something out of boredom. Every time, he would weave a web of seemingly unrelated things step by step, almost wrapping her up to the point where she was unable to resist. Seeing that Gu Mengmeng did not believe him, Cole frowned and said, "I just want to make my presence known in front of you, in case you forget me after not seeing me for a long time." Gu Mengmeng's face darkened and her patience was slipping away bit by bit. "Gu Mengmeng." A soft call came from behind, accompanied by soft sobs. Sandy must have been scared out of her wits to make such a sound. Gu Mengmeng did not have the time to care about Cole's motives and could only turn around to comfort Sandy. He gently hugged Sandy in his arms and patted her back. "It's okay, I'm here. I will protect you. You know. I am very strong." Chapter 1044. Save. Gu Mengmeng caught onto the keyword and her gaze was filled with astonishment. Sandy nodded and pointed at the bushes in the distance with her trembling hand. Gu Mengmeng squinted her eyes and looked in that direction. After a closer look, she realized that there were many corpses lying all over the place. Cole would save Sandy. Didn't this pervert only know how to harm others? Cole chuckled and said, "Accident." Gu Mengmeng ignored Cole because no matter what he did, in Gu Mengmeng's eyes, he was just a weasel paying respects to a chicken and did not have any good intentions. Cole took a deep breath and then seriously felt the pain from his internal organs caused by his broken bones. The smile on his lips deepened and melded into one with the night sky. He said with a slight grievance, "Aw Gu, you really don't understand me. I want to be the most special person in your life. How can I allow anyone other than me to threaten you? If you hate someone else, I will be jealous." Pervert. Gu Mengmeng threw this sentence at him and turned around to ignore Cole. Elvis did not like the way Cole was looking at Gu Mengmeng. Seeing that Gu Mengmeng had no intention to continue talking to Cole, he moved to stand between the two of them. He did not release his beast pressure, but his gaze was filled with a murderous aura. Cole did not respond to Elvis and just turned around lazily. He said, "So slow. Aw Gu will be impatient if we wait any longer." Gu Mengmeng comforted Sandy while paying attention to the surroundings. There were messy footsteps approaching from afar. For some reason, those footsteps seemed to be stepping on the tip of Gu Mengmeng's heart. Every step was so heavy that Gu Mengmeng could not help but frown. "Ha, you're finally here." Cole stood calmly and the smile on his face deepened, with a hint of bloodlust and wickedness. Just as he finished his sentence, a group of males had already surrounded them. The one leading them was Oakley, and beside him stood over 20 males emitting a murderous aura. Gu Mengmeng glanced at them briefly. She had seen 16 of them before. On the day she had just returned to Sauter, these 16 people had welcomed her at the entrance of Sauter. Without saying a word, the 20 over people pounced on Cole in unison. Among them, there were 2 5th-level orcs, 7 or 8 4th-level orcs, and the rest were 3rd-level orcs. Cole instantly unleashed his might and the 3rd-level orc collapsed onto the ground. The level 4 orcs gritted their teeth and persevered, but their combat power was reduced to almost negligible. Hence, it became a triangular battle between the 2 5th-level orcs and Cole. If Cole had not been sent flying by Gu Mingming's kick, it would have been difficult for him to win with his 5th-level strength. But it was almost impossible for these 2 5th-level orcs who were not at their peak to kill him. But now, Cole's ribs were injured and even breathing would injure his internal organs, not to mention the intense battle. Spitting out a mouthful of blood, Cole knelt down on one knee. A 5th-level lion beast swept its leg and kicked Cole's left chest. That was where Gu Mengmeng had injured him. The broken bone pierced into Cole's lungs and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Cole's consciousness started to dissipate, but his gaze was fixed on Gu Mengmeng. His blood-stained lips curled up slightly and he said in a breathless voice, "If you don't save me, I will die." Cole's voice was very soft, but he was sure that Gu Mengmeng could hear him. After all, she had the power of a beast king. Aside from the topic, Cole, you said that my method of threatening Gu is old-fashioned. There is obviously a method that works every time. Why should I waste effort to think of a new one? Author, don't come out to show your existence, everyone can drown you with their spit. Hurry and scram and crawl away smoothly. Chapter 1045. Gu Mengmeng clenched her fists tightly as she struggled internally. She finally understood what Cole's motive was when he told her that his fate was linked to Qishuan's. Take a gamble. As long as she did not do anything, Cole would be dead meat. If the bargaining chip was Qishuan's life, Gu Mengmeng bit her lower lip, but still dashed forward in a big stride. She grabbed the back of Cole's neck and pulled him back, narrowly avoiding the sharp claws of another 5th-level Black Panther orc that was about to dig his heart out. Elvis rushed to Gu Mengmeng's side half a second later and kicked the Black Panther's outstretched arm. The Black Panther's entire body tilted to one side, then his sharp claws dug into a tree branch at the side. With a loud crack, a huge chunk of the tree branch was torn off. The Black Panther's reaction was very agile as he immediately pounced back to fight Elvis. Meanwhile, after Gu Mengmeng pulled Cole back, she pressed his neck against the ground and resisted the urge to snap his neck. She glared at him harshly before letting go and returning to the battlefield. Although the Black Panther and the lion were not at their peak, one had outstanding agility while the other had outstanding strength. In a 1 versus 2 situation, Elvis was at a huge disadvantage. Gu Mengmeng had just stood up when Cole grabbed her wrist and pulled her inwards. Gu Mengmeng was caught off guard and her entire body fell into Cole's chest. He was already injured and after being smashed by Gu Mengmeng, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Although he immediately turned his head, some blood still splattered onto Gu Mengmeng's face. Cough, cough, cough. The blood flowed back into his veins and Cole coughed violently. Gu Mengmeng did not have the leisure to take care of him. She wanted to pry his hand away and stand up to help Elvis, but Cole held onto her hand and refused to let go as he coughed. You don't want your remaining hand either, do you? As Gu Mengmeng said, she raised her hand to break Cole's other hand. Cole frowned and shook his head as he coughed. Then, he saw many black figures leaping over from all directions. Elvis was shocked and instinctively took a step back to shield Gu Mengmeng. At the same time, the 3rd-level beasts on the ground, the 4th-level beasts that were barely holding on and the 2 5th-level beasts that were still trembling with Elvis just now all showed signs of defeat. The 3rd-level and 4th-level beasts were bitten to death, the the two fifth-level beasts were scattered by a group of third-level and fourth-level beasts, and the Black Panther was completely surrounded. No matter how hard he bit and killed, he could not break through the encirclement. On the other hand, the lion was being attacked by two fifth-level stray beasts. Black Panther wanted to release his beast pressure to get rid of the third and fourth-level orcs surrounding him to help the lion, but before he could release his beast pressure, the lion's head had already been bitten off by two stray beasts, one on the head and the other on the spine. The third-level and fourth-level orcs immediately dispersed, and the two fifth-level stray beasts immediately counterattacked. No matter how agile the Black Panther was, it was of no use. It did not even have the time to let out a cry before its chest was cut open, and its organs spilled all over the ground. And all this happened in less than 10 seconds. Gu Meng Meng looked at Cole, who was clutching onto her wrist tightly. Her coughing gradually subsided, but her breathing was still not smooth. But her lips curled into a smile that said, "That's all," with a hint of scheming and sarcasm. Chapter 1046. Cole tilted his head and ignored Gu Mingming's tugging. He refused to let go and leaned into Gu Mingming's arms. Gu Mengmeng felt disgusted and wanted to push him away. But he looked like he would definitely die if she used any more force, so Gu Mengmeng did not dare to make any big movements. Cole's expression became even more arrogant after he succeeded. Tilting his face, Cole smiled and pointed at Oakley with his trembling chin. "Now, Gu, do you wish for him to live or to die?" Gu Mengmeng frowned at Cole. "He obviously came to kill you today. If I said I want him to live, would you let him off?" Cole chuckled. Blood trickled down from the corner of his lips, but he did not seem to care. "If he deserves to die just because he wanted to kill me, then there would only be piles of bones left in this world." Cough, cough, cough. "I don't blame him for wanting to kill me. But he made use of you, so I cannot let him off." Gu Mengmeng did not quite understand what Cole was talking about. There was no fear on Oakley's face, but it was filled with guilt. He did not dare to look into Gu Mengmeng's eyes. Cole sneered. "People who are disloyal to you do not deserve to stay by your side." Oakley's eyes were fixed on Cole, but he did not dare to move an inch to meet Gu Mingming's gaze. He could only turn all his anger into a voice. "The winner takes all. If you want to kill me, then kill me. But after you kill me, let Bloom go." Although Cole's chest was in excruciating pain and every word he said was excruciating, he was leaning on Gu Mingming's shoulder. He felt that this was the most wonderful feeling. Even the pain made him so happy. Even though every word he said would cause his internal organs to be rubbed by the broken bones, causing his entire body to spasm in pain, he did not stop talking as if he was torturing himself. He talked back and forth with Oakley. Do you think you still have the right to make requests?" Gu Mengmeng was confused. She looked at Cole and then at Oakley. "Who is Bloom?" Upon hearing Gu Mingming's words, Oakley lowered his gaze and stared at the ground, until he understood that Cole would not answer this question for him. Cole was looking at him as though he was watching a good show, forcing him to face Gu Mengmeng himself. Clenching his fists, clenching his teeth and abandoning all his pride and self-esteem, Oakley raised his head with tears streaming down his cheeks. "Gu Mengmeng, everything is my fault. Bloom is innocent. Please save him, at least save him." "So who is Bloom?" Gu Mengmeng rarely saw males in the beast world cry. No matter how badly injured or painful they were, they would grit their teeth and endure it. The only time was when Peter and Natalie got back together. Peter had cried, but he had only secretly shed 2 drops of tears. He had not expected Oakley's eyes to be so red, with tears and snot flowing down his face in handfuls, looking extremely pathetic. "Bloom is the little snake you left behind to communicate with. He's my lover." Gu Mengmeng was stunned and could not react for a long while. Because she clearly remembered, that little snake was a damn male. Gu Mengmeng did not discriminate against homosexuals. On the contrary, she had a cowardly fujoshi soul. The reason why she was cowardly was because she was extremely brave when shouting slogans and fantasizing. But when a BLCP really appeared beside her, she was not used to it. Chapter 1047. Oakley's hoarse voice pulled Gu Mengmeng back from her thoughts. The pleading and sorrowful look on his face touched Gu Mengmeng's heart. Was love differentiated by gender? In the past, when they were in the dormitory reading a tofu manga from H country, there was a sentence in it that was treated as a divine decree by the few fujoshis in the dormitory. Everyone is like a magnet. Different genders are like two different poles, easily attracted to each other. But for the two poles to embrace each other, it requires even more courage and strength. It's already so difficult for them, why should we add to their resistance? Gu Mengmeng turned to look at Cole, frowning. Oakley is my friend, no matter what he did in the past, I will protect him. As for Bloom, he belongs to the Snake King Valley, you have to return him to me. Cole chuckled, his laughter sounding strange and demonic. He looked up at Gu Mengmeng, asking in a gentle tone, you are still as soft-hearted as before. But who asked you to be my Gu? Since you have already asked, I will naturally have to satisfy you. He lifted his finger and one of the stray beasts raised its head and howled. Not long after, there was a rustling sound, and then, a small snake in the form of a half-beast slithered out. She was used to seeing Wabiai's burly half-beast form. Compared to him, this little snake looked much more delicate. His upper body had smooth muscles, but they were not very strong, at most at a healthy level, probably like those few boys in the swimming club in school who could never get a spot in the competition. There were bruises all over his body, and there was a large cut at the corner of his mouth, still stained with blood. He looked dazed, clearly approaching her at a steady speed, but Gu Mengmeng could clearly feel the fear radiating from his body. Elvis and Leah had always been gentle to Gu Mengmeng, but even so, there would always be deep or shallow bruises on her body after sex, so with just one look, Gu Mengmeng knew what was up with the bruises on Bloom's body. Glaring fiercely at Cole, Gu Mengmeng instinctively pushed him away, throwing him onto the ground, saying, disgusting. He then drew a piece of animal skin from the side and wrapped it around Bloom's upper body to cover the traces. After being thrown by Gu Mengmeng, Cole's broken bone pierced deeper into his lungs, before being pulled out a little more. A mouthful of hot blood flowed out from his throat. Cole exhaled and used his broken elbow to support himself on the ground. Then, he used his other hand to gently wipe the blood stains at the corner of his lips. He chuckled. Not in Gu's arms, the pain actually became so dull and tasteless. With that, Cole transformed into a fox and then back instantly. This switch could put dislocated bones back in place. Broken bones were still broken, but the healing of the bones after they were put back in place was just a trivial matter for a level 5 orc. Cole's transformation was very fast, but Gu Mengmeng's eyesight was too good now, so she still saw it. A fox without a tail looks really weird. Chapter 1048. Cole. I will kill you. Oakley's eyes were bloodshot as he struggled to break free from the stray beast's grip, looking like he was going to fight to the death with Cole. But Cole did not seem to mind as he laughed sarcastically and asked, can't you tell that Gu doesn't want me to die? Oakley could not hear a single word Cole said, nor did he care about the disparity between their abilities. He only felt that he was going crazy. No, he was already crazy. He just wanted to kill Cole. Kill Cole. Cole waved his hands lightly and the person who was holding Oakley released his grip. Oakley was like a trapped beast that had broken free from its chains as he pounced towards Cole. And before he could even touch a single strand of Cole's hair, Cole released his beast pressure and pressed Oakley onto the ground. And this time, not only Oakley was severely injured, the rest of the people present were also affected, regardless of friend or foe. Third level and below orcs were injured again and Bloom was directly pressed back into his original form. Leah and the other fourth level orcs held onto their chests and forced themselves to take a deep breath, refusing to give in with their pride. Fifth level orcs also had a great disparity in abilities and those who were not at their peak would still feel fearful of this beast pressure. The only ones who did not care about it other than Cole himself were Elvis and Gu Meng Meng. Looking at Oakley who was lying on the ground beside his feet, Cole sat up and sneered, "You are so weak and yet you still dare to say such arrogant words. TSK TSK TSK, trash." Gu Meng Meng walked over and helped Oakley up. She then looked at Cole with a cold smile and said, "In my eyes, you are also weak. You are just a despicable person who held Qi Xian hostage so that I don't dare to kill you. What right do you have to talk so arrogantly and belittle others? If we are talking about trash, then you, Cole, are the number one in the beast world." "Ah, Gu, you are teasing me again." Cole looked at Gu Meng Meng with a doting expression and said those words which made Gu Meng Meng shudder all over. She spat out, "So damn disgusting." Oakley was already unable to exert any strength from the pressure and could not even stand up. He just gently pushed Gu Meng Meng's hand away and crawled to Bloom's side. He hugged him tightly in his arms and wrapped him up tightly with the hide that was used to cover his private parts. He was so careful, so protective. "Ah, Boo, it's me, it's me. Don't be afraid, I will accompany you, yeah." With every word Oakley uttered, a trickle of blood dripped from the corner of his mouth. However, he did not seem to notice it as he smiled at the little snake in his arms that had fainted from the beast pressure. Kissing his head, she whispered, "Sorry, I am too useless. I can't protect you. You always say that I am smart. But what is the use of being smart? I tried my best to set up a trap to save you but in the end, I still failed miserably." Bloom moved slightly in Oakley's arms and forced his eyes open. He wanted to transform into a human and talk to Oakley, but how could a second-level beast withstand Cole's fifth-level coercion? It was already a miracle that he was still conscious at this moment. Sticking out his snake tongue, Bloom licked away the tears on Oakley's face and hissed something. Oakley could not understand but Gu Meng Meng could. Chapter 1049. No. I won't allow it. I won't allow it. Oakley locked Bloom tightly in his arms like a madman. He used all his strength but still felt that it was not tight enough, as if Bloom would not leave him as long as he did not let go. Bloom's eyelids started to blur and he could only rely on his snake sense of the king of his tribe to turn his head to look at Gu Meng Meng with difficulty. Hiss, hiss hiss, Gu Meng Meng pursed her lips and did not say a word. Bloom was telling her that everything Oakley did was for his sake and that he was kidnapped by Cole because he was too weak, forcing Oakley to listen to his threats. Everything was his fault. He was begging Gu Meng Meng to forgive Oakley. "Abu. I beg you, for my sake, bear with it a little more, all right, MMM." Oakley didn't know what Bloom was talking about but a lover is so sensitive that he could feel the life draining out of the person in his arms. Hiss hiss, hiss, Bloom was saying, "Please, forgive him, save him." Without waiting for Gu Meng Meng's reply or another sentence of Oakley's plea, Bloom breathed his last breath with his murky eyes. His originally cold and soft body collapsed bit by bit. The entire weight of the snake had returned to Oakley's arms. He had never felt so heavy before. In the past, no matter how Oakley carried him, he would always feel as light as a feather. "Aw." Oakley howled at the sky until he could no longer make a sound. He continued to howl at the sky with his mouth wide open, as though he was questioning why the heavens wanted to take bosom away. His pair of scarlet eyes were bloodshot and even bulging out. An unprecedented sense of helplessness, no matter how he howled, his voice could not be transmitted. Endless despair enveloped him so tightly that he could not breathe. His heart fell into the abyss along with Bloom's limp body. There was no end, then, blood flowed out from the corner of his eyes, followed by his ears, corners of his mouth, nostrils. Gu Mengmeng clenched her fists tightly and wanted to stop Oakley, but Leah hugged her waist. He did not say anything and just shook his head. Gu Mengmeng did not know how much time had passed, but this was the first time she felt that counting time in seconds was so long and torturous. Oakley's body went limp and fell to the side while Bloom's body was still tightly held in his arms. Gu Mengmeng clenched her fists tightly and turned to glare at Cole with hatred. Cole smiled at Gu Mengmeng fearlessly. "Ah, Gu, your gaze is so beautiful. Just like a poisonous rose blooming in the darkest night. Heh, that's a fatal temptation." Gu Mengmeng gritted her teeth and said word by word, "Cole, what exactly do you want? Why did you appear by my side like a ghost? Do you want to get me or kill me? No matter what, just come at me directly. What kind of ability is it to always use the people around you to make a move?" Cole took Gu Mengmeng's angry roars as if they were words of love. Then, he smiled widely and said, "It's so rare that Gu is starting to care about me. What do I want? I want to pull you into my world, and then look at the world's peerless scenery with me. You know, after being alone for a long time, you will still feel lonely. If you can pull me, just come and pull me. Why are you torturing an innocent person?" Chapter 1050. Gu, actually I don't mind if you hate me, but I mind if you misunderstand me. Cole explained with a look of, "I really can't do anything to you. As for me, I did take away the little snake you left behind, but as long as Oakley is obedient and helps you take care of Sauter, I will not mistreat his little lover. You drugged and raped him, and you still say you won't mistreat him." Gu Mengmeng was almost roaring. Cole chuckled and replied calmly, "It was Oakley who initiated the challenge. I just accepted it. Now that he is dead, you can say whatever you want." Gu Mengmeng gritted her teeth. Cole shook his head and said, "Have you ever thought that the people lying here are the leaders and the main fighting force of the surrounding tribes? The weakest of them is a third-level orc. What right do you think they have to listen to Oakley, a second-level orc, and go against the stray beasts?" Water source. Gu Mengmeng knew the answer almost without thinking. But she did not want to answer Cole and just stared at him coldly. Cole did not force Gu Mengmeng to answer and just continued, "These 16 tribes became Oakley's blade for the sake of the water source, and those tribes who could not get the water source will become a knife hanging over your head." Cole's gaze casually looked towards the bushes not far away, where there were still many corpses. He chuckled, as if he was laughing at Oakley's wild imagination. His tone was filled with contempt and sarcasm as he continued, "If there's anything good about him, it's probably that he understands me. He knows that I will never allow others to use the same method to coerce you, so he purposely spread the news that you can get the water source if you get the messenger of the beast deity, and also spread the news of me holding Qi Xian hostage to threaten you. He knew that he would not be able to fool me if he was just bluffing, so in order to force me to appear here on time, he really risked your life." Cole pointed to the bushes and continued, "If I had come a little later, Sandy's entire family would have already been caught by them. In such a dangerous situation, they would not be like me who would consider your feelings and treat Sandy like a gentleman. Those 6 newborn leopards would probably all die tonight." Cole looked at Gu Mengmeng lazily and casually. He asked with a smile, "If I pinched Sandy and asked you to change the well, based on your character, you would have dug it without hesitation, right?" Gu Mengmeng did not say anything, but she knew he was right. As long as Sandy was fine, digging a well was nothing. Cole seemed to understand her thoughts and said, "But have you ever thought about it? Once you dig this well, Sandy's family will become the target that the entire beast world will fight over. Everyone's eyes will be on them, because their family is equivalent to a water source, or even, a bargaining chip that can be used to get whatever you want." Gu Mengmeng froze and frowned. She was not afraid of encountering anything, not only because she was extremely powerful, but also because Elvis and Leah would always protect her. But what about Sandy? She was just a gentle half-orc female, the one who could not even defeat Nina in a fight. If she were to be pushed to the heart of the storm. Just thinking about it made her heart ache. Chapter 1051. Actually, Gu Meng Meng wanted to refute Cole. She wanted to say that Oakley was not that kind of person, he would not do such a thing. She wanted to say that she had already dug a well in St. Nazaire and many people knew about it, so how could she say that Oakley was the one who spread the news? She wanted to say that many people knew that he had used Qi Xian to threaten her, so it was not strange for someone to do the same thing in order to obtain a water source. She wanted to say that it was just a coincidence for the surrounding 16 tribes to appear here today. However, even if she said these words, would she believe it herself? Many people knew that there was a well in St. Nazaire, but most of them thought that the messenger of the beast deity had descended, so the beast deity bestowed the eye of life upon her. Only the people in St. Nazaire knew that the well was dug by Gu Meng Meng. Cole was a stray beast and rarely appeared in public. Most of the time, he hid in the shadows and plotted strategies. That time when he openly followed beside her was because he had used a camouflage technique to disguise himself as Leah. Moreover, Qi Xian had been by Cole's side even before his evolution. Everyone only knew that Cole had a little wolf cub by his side, but who knew that that little wolf cub was the second son of the messenger of the beast deity? Damn it! Gu Meng Meng looked at Oakley and Bloom's corpses and scolded with reddened eyes. Why are you apologizing? If you didn't King apologize, I could still defend you. Now that you see me being forced into a corner, are you satisfied? You still dare to say that we are friends? Is there a friend like you? If only Oakley could keep up the act and not lose his rationality due to guilt, not daring to look at Gu Meng Meng and even apologizing to her. Then, just based on Gu Meng Meng's animosity towards Cole, Gu Meng Meng could firmly say that she did not believe a single word of what Cole said now. No matter how logical or illogical his deductions were, she would not believe it. Even if he threw all the evidence in her face, she would not believe it. Because you are Cole, I will not believe anything you say. But, Oakley and Bloom apologized to her before they died. Oh Gu, I protected your friend. Cole grinned. So, shouldn't you express your gratitude to me? Thank you, if you weren't holding Qishuan's life in your hands, would really want to thank you properly. Cole obviously understood the meaning behind the word thank you. He shrugged his shoulders nonchalantly and said, Gu, I can't die now, just bear with it a little longer and hate me a little more. When I push you to the position that belongs to you, I will remove the connection between me and Qi Xian. When that time comes, you can do whatever you want, alright? He sounded like he was coaxing his girlfriend who was throwing a tantrum. So fucking disgusting. Gu, I saved Sandy all for you. If you don't express your gratitude to me, then I can only ask for a gift from Sandy. You know, I don't like being owed anything. But I don't know if Sandy can afford to pay the stray beasts for saving her life. After all, she just gave birth not long ago. Gu Mingming's mind exploded. Natalie had once told her how stray beasts treated females. Chapter 1052. Cole held the tooth that was knocked out in his mouth and did not spit it out. He just turned his face back and looked at Gu Meng Meng with a faint smile. Gu Meng Meng gritted her teeth and said, I thanked you for saving my friend. Cole covered his mouth with his hand and pretended to cough twice. He hid the tooth in his palm and then spat out a mouthful of blood. Fortunately, he had spat out enough blood today and this mouthful was not too sudden. Then, he still chuckled and said, You're welcome. Gu Meng Meng raised her leg and stepped on Cole's shoulder, flattening him to the ground. Then, she looked down at Cole like a female bandit and said word by word, "I thank you for saving Sandy. But I will first note down the debt of killing Oakley and Bloom. When I find a way to dispel the connection between you and Qi Xian, I will definitely settle the score with you." "All right, I look forward to it." Cole did not struggle and just laid down to look at Gu Mengmeng. He laughed softly and his gaze was gentle. Gu Mengmeng stood up and kicked Bode. "Can you stand up?" Bode's injuries were not serious. It was mainly because of the beast pressure that had exploded out so many times that he felt extremely uncomfortable. But now, this scene, Bode gritted his teeth and nodded. He supported himself against the wall and staggered to stand up. Gu Mengmeng looked at his cowardly manner and could not trust him to hand Sandy over. She could only glare at him and then went to help Sandy up herself. "Sandy, stay at my place tonight, all right?" Sandy had been scared out of her wits today and her eyes were glazed over. She only regained her senses after Gu Mengmeng finished her sentence and nodded in a daze. Gu Mengmeng threw the 6 little milk buns to Hedda and Jiaoyu, then helped Sandy out. Elvis and Leah exchanged glances and searched through the pile of corpses. They carried Sandy's partners on their shoulders and brought them along. After returning to the stone castle, Sandy kept holding on to Gu Mengmeng's hand as she was too afraid. Gu Mengmeng did not struggle and arranged a room for Sandy on the first floor. She stayed in the room with Sandy for the night. The next morning, the sun rose as usual. Leah stayed behind in the stone castle to take care of Sandy's severely handicapped family while Elvis appeared at the entrance of Sodor as an absolutely powerful character. The majestic Elvis just stood there with his hands behind his back and the 16 witch doctors from the tribe who came to demand an explanation immediately fell silent. They did not even dare to say another word. No matter what agreement your leader had with Oakley previously, now that Oakley is dead, your leader is also dead, so the agreement is automatically terminated. Elvis's words were very calm, there was not even a hint of fluctuation in his tone. "How can this be? That's right. The strongest warrior in our tribe is dead. How can you go back on your words? This isn't what we agreed on, this, ha." Elvis sneered and said, "Come and fight if you're not convinced. If you win, you have the final say." Strength was the most important, and the winner would have all the spoils. This was a fixed rule in the beast world. Look at this black-faced evil spirit in front of them. Even the strongest warrior in the tribe might not be able to defeat him when he was alive. Now, these witch doctors want to fight him. Even if they were to be his punching bag, he would despise them for being too soft. Chapter 1053. On a hill 3,000 meters away from the Sodor tribe, Cole was lying on his back, basking in the sun. He summoned a stray beast and handed him a small beast skin bag. "Go to Zacharias and deliver this to the young master." "Yes." The stray beast did not dare to ask further. He just kept the small beast skin bag and transformed into his beast form before flying off. Another stray beast came to report. "Mighty Cole, the 16 tribes have all submitted to Sodor." Elvis was the one who announced the acceptance personally. Cole chuckled and nodded, as if everything was within his expectations. "Issue an order. From today onwards, the stray beasts are forbidden to attack will be added to these 16 tribes." "Yes." The person who reported nodded respectfully and retreated. Mighty Cole. A female sat against the light. She gently caressed Cole's chest with her little hands. Her voice was soft, with a tinge of shyness and timidity. She said in a very loving manner, "You have done so many things for the great messenger. Why don't you tell her directly? If she knows how well you have treated her, she will definitely be very touched." Treated? As if he had heard a joke, Cole's lips curled upwards happily. "Tell me, what good things do you think I did to her? Is it worth it for her to be touched?" Let's not talk about the distant ones and just talk about the recent ones. That side was obviously about to close the net, but because Sauter's side did not send the communication information that was supposed to be sent over, you gave up the plan that you had painstakingly laid down and rushed over to Sauter, afraid that she would really fall into Oakley's trap, so you rushed over to protect her. Ha! Cole's hand gently stroked the female's ears as he said nonchalantly, "You were tricked by Oakley." Ha! Gu is the messenger of the beast deity that I personally groomed. How could she fall into that kind of scum's trap? Don't forget, she still has Leah, who is known as the smartest person in the beast world, and Elvis, whose skills have reached the peak. The black-white double ghosts aren't just for show. Cole paused for a moment. He seemed to recall how Gu Mengmeng glared at him with red eyes last night. That pair of clear and clean eyes only had a shadow of him at that time. Then why did you rush over? That female saw that Cole was obviously in a good mood and seemed to like this topic. Hence, she carefully pretended to be curious. In fact, Cole was in a good mood. The corners of his lips were still curled up. He said lazily, "In this world, I am the only one who can make things difficult for Gu. Did anyone else deserve to upset her? Hee, just thinking about it makes me unhappy." "Lord Cole is not honest," the female said softly. "Didn't you already sense it when Oakley secretly contacted the 16 tribes? But you didn't stop his actions and even added fuel to the fire without leaving a trace. Last night, you killed all the leaders and strongest warriors of the 16 tribes. Isn't it to remove all the thorns from the 16 tribes so that the great messenger can sit back and enjoy the fruits of your labor without being held back?" The female was so excited that she seemed to have forgotten everything else. She did not notice the cold glint beneath Cole's smile and continued, "Oh, that's right, Dora. From the stray beast's attack to Leonard's death, it was you who helped the great messenger peel off the hard shell so that the great messenger could enjoy the sweet fruits." Cole. Great messenger, out of topic. Alright, today's update is over. Another bunch of people had died. When I was chatting with the other authors yesterday, they said that their readers were anticipating the death of the male and female protagonists every day. I said, the question my little baby asked me every day was, "Susu, how many more episodes does Cole have left?" I calculated with my fingers. I can't say it. Chapter 1054. You think too highly of yourself. Cole's lips were still curled upwards, but his hand was tightly gripping onto the female's neck without any mercy. It was only when the female almost fainted from the lack of oxygen that Cole released his hand, allowing her to fall limply onto his knees. Then, he stroked her ears as if he was caressing a pet. His tone was gentle and had a tinge of pampering, but it was mixed with a dangerous warning tone. I don't like females that are too smart, understand? Unless that female was called Gu Mengmeng. Yes, mighty Cole, I have crossed the line. The female didn't dare to say any more nonsense. She curled up into a ball and lay trembling on Cole's knees. Cole caressed her furry ears, squinting his eyes as he looked up to enjoy the sunlight, as if he wasn't the one who wanted to strangle her to death just now. This female wasn't wrong, but she only knew half of it. He only discovered it when Oakley contacted the 16 tribes. What kind of joke was that? The moment he captured Bloom, the trap had already been laid. And when he knew that Gu Mengmeng had left a little snake for Oakley, he had already started to lay out his plans. Their love was a product of Cole's meticulous design. To think that they had fallen so deeply into it that one died while the other died from grief. TSK, how cheap. Lowering his head to look at the female on his knees, Cole's smile held a trace of contempt. She could only see the surface, but she still dared to boast in front of him. Gu was still the best. That sly little fox was still the best. When she was analyzing Dora's situation, there were clearly only a few scattered clues, but she managed to piece together 80% of the original picture. She looked so beautiful at that time that one couldn't help but want to set up even more elaborate traps to trap her, and then let her slowly dismantle them. Thinking of Gu Mengmeng, Cole's mood improved again. He caressed the female's head and said, "Go back, don't let Gu discover your identity. Otherwise, I am not a person who knows how to be protective of the fairer sex." Yes. The female felt as if she had been pardoned. She then retreated cautiously. Cole narrowed his eyes as he watched her leave. Then, he gave a low laugh in exasperation. Why does Gu like half-orcs so much? He's obviously very lowly. On the other side, Elvis had settled the matters of the 16 tribes. The first thing he did upon returning to the stone castle was to hug Gu Mengmeng. I haven't seen her for the whole morning. I miss her so much. After taking 2 deep breaths of her scent, the exhaustion in his body was dispelled. How is it? Gu Mengmeng asked. Elvis placed her on his thighs and played with her soft little hands while answering. We followed Li's instructions to distribute the order of drawing water. It's just that there are too many loopholes left behind by Oakley. Although the 16 tribes have submitted to us, the benefits involved cannot be underestimated. If we don't handle it properly, there will definitely be a huge mess. I think Leah is the only one who can handle this mess. Gu Mengmeng frowned. You mean, we are going to stay in Sauder permanently? Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's forehead and said, Silly girl, we will only stay at the place you like. As for whether Sauder is chaotic or not, who cares? Gu Mengmeng face-bombed. What a willful Elvis, you're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.